welcome to the Feist.
Everything you want to know about your favorite women's sports in one feisty hour. Less than an hour this week, Sarah.
Hopefully less than an hour. Can we do it, though, Kelly? Can we do it? With your feistiest friends,
Kelly O'Mara.
And me, Sarah Gross.
And today, we're doing the math to figure out what time it is in Tokyo, so you don't miss any of the track and field world championships. This took me, like, a weird amount of time. But first, Rugby World Cup and WNBA Playoffs are both set, mostly. Like, pretty much. And the U.S. Open, I hear that was the hottest take. Like, even the president, I don't know, went for the first time in 30 years. And you watched a bunch of it, right? Or some of it?
Well, I wouldn't say a bunch.
Some.
I would say I watched most of the final match, like the finals. And it was like, okay, it was amazing to see, like, I haven't watched tennis in a while, right?
Okay.
So, first of all, your American girl there, Anisimova.
Yes. She's having a good year. She's like really this whole like mental health break comeback thing is really big. Yeah.
Yes. So seeing her at the finals in Wimbledon and just getting like beaten so badly, right? Sorry, but like there's no understating 6-0, 6-0.
Sure.
Right. And then, you know, hearing her story about how her dad passed and she had mental health issues and then her comeback and getting to her first Grand Slam final. I think was it her first Grand Slam final in
like
Wimbledon?
In a while, yeah.
In a while, yes, in years in Wimbledon. And then like just like getting hammered and beaten so badly, right? To come back from that mentally, like think about this mental strength, right?
Sure.
Come back from that into another open final. And this time, like she didn't win, but she played very, very well. And they gave us her and is it Aryna? Is that how you pronounce it?
Aryna Sabalenka. Yeah.
Sabalenka gave us a very, very good match.
I mean, she's really, really dominant right now. I am not a tennis savant, but my understanding is she's very dominant on hard courts. Is that accurate? And she is the first woman to defend their U.S. Open title since Serena. So that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And so she's like world number one right now. I don't know if anybody saw the clip that was going around in one of the quarterfinals where she she thought a point was going out of bounds and she didn't let for, and then it like just was inbounds, and you see just like her entire range of emotion on her face, like fuck. Like it just like the whole they were saying like she went through like the 5 stages of grief in 10 seconds. Like it was pretty epic.
I feel like these are the skills, these are the emotional skills you need for tennis. Yes. Honestly, is to be able to like go through this range of emotions very quickly and like come out the other side like ready to play again so quickly.
You definitely have to rally like emotionally. I think that would be very
literally
hard. Yeah.
and emotionally. Yes.
That would be that's what's stopping me from being a great tennis player, I think.
Your ability to rally emotionally. It's nothing to do with like the serving and the hitting and how fast those women hit the ball. Nothing like that. No, you would otherwise be right there.
Right.
Except you just don't quite have that emotional control.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The other thing, well, we'll talk some more about her in a second, but the other thing that was super interesting at the U.S. Open was they also had the wheelchair singles and doubles, and that the crowds, they had the women's wheelchair singles right before the match you were just talking about. I was like, what would that be called? The women's singles. And it's getting bigger and bigger crowds, which is like really cool. And so Yui Kamiji of Japan won, and I saw like a clip of her playing. And so I just thought that was kind of cool too, that they're like wrapping it all up together.
Right, like they took the parasport and like mixed it in with with the open. Oh, I love that.
So, great. But here's the other thing I learned though in Aryna Sabalenka's press conference. She's doing a battle of the sexes too, which I am like mixed about. Yeah.
Wait, what? Like as in like Billie Jean King?
Yes.
Battle of the
She's
sexes?
playing Nick Kyrgios. I can't say his name, but everybody, people know who he is. Like the Greek player, the tennis player. Sometime in January, it hasn't been determined yet, and it's like being framed as a battle of the sexes. I think she kind of thinks it's just like funny. Like she's definitely like, oh, it'll be fun. Like it's like and he's like, oh, do I even have to try? I don't know. It's weird. I don't quite understand because I don't feel like we need this. You're like shaking your head. You're like, I'm just like
very perplexed. I'm very perplexed at like why this is happening now. Yeah, why? And who is he? Like who laid down this challenge? Is he like a current tennis player.
Yes. He is. That's what I meant about like people will know who he is who are in tennis. He's not the number one like the way she is, but he is a good, well-known player. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's just like in the same way. Okay, so in a like better example of more recent times, like when they did the Steph and Sabrina 3-point contest 2 years ago.
Yep.
And that was brought from a very like genuine place of like Steph definitely like follows women's basketball and cares about women's basketball, Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And like wanted to showcase that like these women are actually really, really good shooters, right?
Yeah.
So that was the place that was brought from. This, the vibe I'm getting, because he's like had some quotes about like, am I even going to have to try? Which I get, like, I think he's kidding.
Is he?
And I
think
they're
joking? Yeah.
like, I think they're kidding in the way that people just like talk trash to their friends. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's very weird on a public international stage. So I don't get this. But she in the press conference was, oh, it'll be good for women's sport. It'll be exciting. It'll be fun. And I was like, is it good for? I don't know.
Yeah, at a time when, okay, first of all, when like women's sport is starting to have like a whole new stage of its own, do its own thing, you know, and like tennis, of course, is like way ahead of that in terms of the curve, right? But like, okay, so these are the times that we live in. Like women's sport is like up leveling in like almost every way, okay? And then layer onto that, you have this like weird anti-trans backlash thing happening where it's like you have to prove you're a woman, and we just have like sex testing in world athletics, which we've talked about a lot and we're talking about again today. Like you have to prove you're a woman. Like it just feels weirdly timed in that context, right?
Oh, you mean
like
the massive global cultural backlash that I keep being like
the massive
this is a problem?
cultural that women's sports is like at the center of like this, because on one hand it's growing so quickly, and on the other hand you have this like massive backlash, prove you're a woman BS happening. And like, why do we need
I think it's just
why do
weird.
we even need to compare men and women's sports at this stage?
Yeah, I think it's just weird personally, and like again, like I think they might be friends and they might just think it's kind of funny,
right?
But from a like cultural analysis standpoint,
yes, this is the standpoint I always come from, by the way, Kelly.
From a cultural analysis standpoint, the original one was, I don't know if necessary is that word, but it was because people really genuinely like thought women were good.
Like the zeitgeist was like steeped in sexism, like deeply, right? And like Billie Jean King was out to like prove them wrong,
right? And I don't think there's obvious. I was about to say I don't think there's anyone who think Aryna Sabalenka isn't a good tennis player, but then I thought about all of the men who think they could get a point on Serena, and you're oh yeah, there are those people. So.
Did you ever see some of the like reels where they had like men out there with Serena, trying to hit the ball back, tried to even like hit it, like return her serve, like that was hilarious. Anyway,
so I'm with you. I'm not sure we need it. I'm not sure it adds anything or to the debate, the discussion. And I do think women's sports at a point where I don't really care if she can beat Nick. Whatever, it doesn't matter to me.
I think that's part of my point. I'm like, this is not a hook for me. I'm like very much not interested in whether a good women's tennis player can beat a men's tennis player.
But I bet you anything it gets mainstream. I saw this in the press conference, and then it was in People magazine, so it's mainstream coverage stuff. So.
Okay. Well, I hope she wins, Kelly. I hope she wins. Yeah. I don't even know what to say.
I don't even know if I care whether or not she wins. I hope she has. What is it? I just hope everyone has fun out there.
I hope she's enjoying the process.
Yeah. All right. The other thing I did watch, though, that I was about to say is also massive right now, but it's not in People magazine. Rugby World Cup. All right. So Friday, it came down to this I like really went into the weeds on what the U.S. needed to do to make it out of pool play, because so there's 16 teams, 4 pools of 4 teams, and only the top 2 in each team made it through to quarterfinals. And every other pool, it was like already determined before the last game because the teams had won by enough, right? And so the only pool where it wasn't determined was the U.S. one. And England was going through, but it was either Australia or the U.S. for the second spot. And it came down to like the U.S. had to beat Samoa by 60 or 70 or get 4 tries, and Australia had to lose to England by at least 40 points. It was like this whole big if they didn't
I
lose
love
by
when pool
enough,
play comes down to this. By the way, that's like really,
but it was like
makes it really fun.
It was really dramatic. It was Australia was probably going to go through, right? But the U.S. beat Samoa by 62 points or something, and then the Australia England game was after that, and you're like rooting for them to lose by more, and you're like,
right. It is a weird thing to. Okay, you're losing. We're sure you're going to lose, but can you just give us a few more points?
And so it ended up. I mean, basically, the problem was that England had previously beat the U.S. by too much, so the point differential. So anyway, Australia ended up going through, even though they lost by a lot, and even though the U.S. beat Samoa by a lot. They went through on point differential, which is, a bummer for everybody who was only watching the Rugby World Cup to see Ilona Maher. And I feel like that's like this, when you get sports that are so tied to one person and that person then is out.
Yeah.
It's like, because I was at dinner and this table next to me was talking about Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And she's out. She's out with injury.
Yeah.
She's been out like all season, not all season, but for a while. And she said that she's not coming back for playoffs. And I was listening to them, and they very obviously, the details of what they were saying were not accurate, Sarah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And
then there was a lot of, oh, is she playing? Oh, well, I have tickets for the playoffs. Oh, when are those? In April. Oh, will she be playing? And you're like, first off, the playoffs are in like 3 weeks. Secondly, what you have tickets for is March Madness. Right. What you have tickets for is March Madness. Third, Caitlin Clark isn't in college anymore and won't be playing in March Madness. And I was just like, I don't even know
when you
where
said
to
the
start.
details were inaccurate, I thought you probably meant like finer details about what her injury is, not like literally confusing tournaments and like not understanding.
They just because they're like blending
it
it all because they've heard Caitlin Clark is good and women's basketball is blowing up. And they're like, oh, I got tickets to the playoffs.
It sort of reminds me of, was it your friend who was like, oh, Caitlin Clark's just not running circles around all of them. You're like, no, actually, the WNBA is full of amazing freaking players. And I think like the people, like, to be fair, I think people probably update their files on that pretty quickly. So I think they probably will with the rugby too. Like if you came to World Cup to watch Ilona Maher and now she's out, like you either like watching rugby or you don't at this point, right? There's only so much of star power that can get you through watching a sport if you don't enjoy watching it. So I don't know.
We'll see, because obviously they've had like record attendance already, and I mean if you have tickets, you're not gonna like not go. We'll see what happens now. Of course, Canada's still in. And if you're listening, you haven't listened, go back and listen to our interview with Liv Apps, the Canadian rugby player from like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Canada's still in, and it's Canada and England are kind of the favorites.
Well, yeah, we went in ranked second in the world, and England was ranked first. And so I'm very holding my breath. Holding my breath.
They both performed as well as expected in pool play. So I guess I'm rooting for Canada now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Part of me was laughing. I was looking at the pools and I was like, I get it. Rugby's second most popular sport in the world. Oh, third, because it's probably like soccer, cricket, rugby. But you have to really question the global reach when out of the 16 teams, it's like Scotland, Wales, the UK, Ireland. You're like, feels like a very concentrated sport here, guys.
But this is okay. You remember what happened with the soccer, right? Like women's soccer was like very concentrated into certain countries were very good, but how quickly everybody caught up.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite at that tipping point yet, because obviously rugby's big in like, I mean, you need like India. Well, you need like a women's.
Yeah, India and I think we'll get there, but we're just, it's like a couple decades behind soccer in terms of the global growth of the women's game.
So, so that was but
I just like jammed my.
Oh, you just smacked yourself in the face with your microphone.
Yeah, that's great.
We're professionals here. But I was gonna say, so rugby quarterfinals are set now, and it goes quarterfinals, semis, finals. So we have like 3 weeks
so we've
left.
got Australia, England, Canada, and
I don't remember all the teams.
New Zealand. That's just a guess. Well, it had to be Australia and England and Canada. We talked about them already.
Yes, we did. And I had I had the whole list up on our social media, and you'd have to go and double check who got through and who didn't. I want to say South Africa, France. So those are set now, and then the WNBA playoffs are almost set too. The Valkyries are officially through. Very exciting. I am.
I'm cheering for the Valkyries because they're close to you until we get our Toronto Tempo team next year, and then I'm abandoning the Valkyries.
They were the first team to qualify for playoffs, a first expansion team. And I have to tell you, so I was at opening game. And I was in the media room because I had like a media pass. And so I was with all these beat basketball reporters, and they were all talking about, they have to like plan they're like, do you think I can take a vacation during the playoffs? And everyone was like, yeah, they're not going to make the playoffs. Of course, like you could. So now I would really like to know if those people like plan.
Those people are like canceling their vacation or like what's happening over there. Someone gets to sub in for
beat
to cover
reporting. Here's the really funny thing though. I wanted to buy, obviously playoffs are, so the teams are virtually set. 7 of the 8. There are 8 playoff teams that go through to the playoffs in the WNBA. They don't do it by conference. They just do top 8 overall. And 7 of them are pretty much locked down. The last spot is kind of between Seattle and LA. It'll probably be Seattle. And there's like 2 more games left. So all of it's, so who plays who and the schedule's not totally determined yet because that depends on ranking. So they haven't released tickets yet. And I was like, well, I want to go to a playoff game. So I went to look this up, Sarah, and they haven't released tickets yet. But it turns out the Valkyries aren't going to be playing in the home stadium.
At all?
Well, at least not for the first round, because there's a tennis tournament booked there.
Oh, they were so sure. They weren't making it to the playoffs that they're like, they booked the venue to something else. Oh, no.
They were like, the local news was like, no, it's not discriminatory. It was booked like 2 years ago. And I was like, sounds kind of suspicious.
It's been booked for 2 years.
Because it's like this big test tournament. It's called the Laver? I don't know how you say it. Tournament. So they have to go play in a different stadium for the first round of playoffs. I know. So anyway, I just, in case people were also wondering, I was like,
Right. Well, hopefully we'll see them back if they get through to the next, whatever happens next.
Whatever happens next. The next round?
Yes. Next round. The second round.
It goes best of 3 for the first round, best of 5, and then best of 7 for the finals, in case people were wondering. And this is the first year they're going to do best of 7 for the finals. So
cool.
But I do have, from that first game at the Valkyries, we do have a couple of clips from the head coach, which I think are like fun to look back on now because that first game they just kept asking her like, it's historic, isn't it just exciting to be here? And she is also the first Japanese American head coach, and so they were asking her about that, particularly in the Bay Area where there's a lot of Asian American communities. So
it's surreal when I went on the first time in preseason. And first I didn't feel it, but then when I looked up and I looked around, I was like, wow, there's a lot of Asian Americans and even some girls that were, Japanese American. And so it's special, especially when you can hear them and say, and then you hear them in the interview, like, oh, I want to be like her. I don't really hear that daily, so to do that and to understand that I can make an impact on someone's life to inspire them, there's no better feeling. Really. It's special. Not everyone gets to be chosen, to be the first, and so I do feel lucky. And so I have to take this with a lot of responsibility, but be present, enjoy it as best as you can. Like I said, as you're saying, it's a first, but at the same time, we gotta have joy, and we gotta make you guys smile and enjoy it, I mean, I think you're gonna find out in a couple hours when this place is gonna be packed, hopefully sold out. So, and it's just not even that, it's like they cheer. Rather, when we were down by 14, they still had our back. Like, that's the type of fan base that we want. Someone that's going to support us, when we're down, and then when we're up, boom, just start screaming, cheering. Again, if they can be our sixth man on defense, because the noise is like hostile almost, then they are definitely part of us.
Okay,
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You sounds like you had a question for me too. We were both like poised, ready after the clip
for a question.
Okay, I love how there she said like the fans are like the sixth player on defense because the noise they make is almost hostile. Like she literally used the word hostile. Do you think that? Well, you personally as a fan who've been to many games, but like, do you think that proved true? Did the Valkyries partially get through to the playoffs because the fans were so involved.
The fans were involved for sure. And obviously everyone always says like, oh, their home stadium. Everyone always says that, right? But they did, again, this is first season. It was like record attendance for WNBA season. They sold out all their games. They had both the record for average attendance in the league and record like overall. So that's, that's like you got some dedicated fans. And I will say the game I went to, I guess I went to two, where they played the Indiana Fever, evidently at a lot of other places because people come out to see Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Away games for the Indiana Fever are basically like the Fever crowd outnumbers the home crowd.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
And that was not the case in this in our stadium.
Love that.
And I think it threw them off. Like they literally talked like it like freaked them out because they're so used to the crowd being with
being
them.
like the star team no matter where they go.
Yeah.
How interesting. Well, good.
So
good for San Francisco.
So it was it's been a fun season, and I do actually really like the head coach Natalie Nakase. I don't know a lot about basketball coaching, but I think here's what's my basis for like why I think she's pretty good. They almost always do better in the second half. They seem to make adjustments. You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
they seem to be like, okay, this didn't work.
Yes.
We need to change things.
Right. I think you're probably right. That's a sign.
So that to me feels like, okay, you're doing something right, So anyway, WNBA playoffs are set. Rugby World Cup is set. I was like, what else is everything? We're coming down to it. It's like championship season. Like,
right. It's like the end of the summer.
We call it that in triathlon. We're like, oh, it's championship season. But I guess it actually is for like all sports.
I guess there's like it's sort of like when you're in school. There's like summer sports and winter sports.
Yeah, I wonder if winter sports feel weird when everyone's like, "Oh, it's championship season," and they're like, "Oh,
they're
we're just getting
starting."
started.
Yeah,
they're like, "Don't forget the Winter Olympics in February."
And everyone's tired from the basketball playoffs.
Yeah, because the other one, because we're going to talk about the track and field world championships in a second, and that's coming up, and then we talked last week about the mountain bike world championships, which are happening right now. And I would say a shout out to Kate Courtney, who won the mountain bike marathon cross country, like what did they call it? You remember how there's all the acronyms? XCM, the cross country mountain bike marathon world title. She won the XCM. And Hannah Otto, who we had on the show 2 weeks ago, got 12th. So
great.
Good for her. I think one of the things, okay, this is like an in the weeds thing for people who like really care about mountain biking and gravel. Gravel's been exploding, and there's all these like very popular mass participation-y type races like Leadville or Unbound or Big Sugar or like, right, that people can do. And there's been kind of this like, and then you also have the elite mountain bike Olympic circuit out there, and they don't really cross over, right? So you don't really know if you're out there doing the 200-mile at Unbound, you know how you stack up against those pros because they like kicked your ass by 4 hours, right? But you don't know, like, that has no relation to Puck Piercy like winning the XCO world title on short track, right? Because you're like, that makes like those are not the same thing,
right?
So what you're having now is starting to have like people cross over. So like Kate Courtney is a UCI cross country mountain bike world champ, and then she went and started doing these like longer things this year after she broke her hand, and now she's won the marathon world championship. So now you're like, oh, actually, like this American gravel mountain bike circuit is actually good. If that makes sense, like we're now having like validators, is what I'm trying to say. Of like, oh, this isn't just like random people,
right?
Which is what there's always these debates like with ultra running or when like some fringe thing starts to get bigger and bigger. It's always like, well, are they really good or not? And you're like, no, they're actually really, really good. Yeah, actually. You see what I'm saying?
So like you're saying the gravel riders are actually really good compared to the mountain bikers and vice versa?
I'm saying, yeah, they're like for a while there was this like, oh, it's just where people go to retire type of thing. Like the same way you got with like trail running. Yes. And that is now no longer, like, if that was ever true, it is certainly no longer true, right? Like you were getting people.
I see. It's like where the road riders go to retire.
That was the argument, it was like, well, as soon as like a pro cyclist comes over, they're just going to kick ass. And that like isn't always the case anymore. And now you're getting like people who really specialize in those things.
Right. And we saw that in Ironman too. Like at the beginning, it was like, or there was not in the beginning, but there was a certain time in which some of the Olympians would come over and people would say, oh, if Olympians start coming over to Ironman, they'll kick their ass. But actually that didn't prove to be true.
It's like sometimes they do.
Some were good.
Yeah.
Some were not.
And I think you get that like every time there's like, you saw that a little bit with CrossFit when it was starting, right? You see that every time there's like a sport that's like getting its feet under it. It's like, oh, well, it's just because nobody good's done it yet. And you're like, well, not exactly.
Exactly. Okay. And then we did have a voicemail
about mountain biking.
Hi, Feisties. Ashley from Toledo, Ohio. Your most recent podcast had me wondering, what's the difference between a gravel race and a mountain bike race? Is it the course that you're on, the type of bike that you're racing? Are people doing both styles? Interested in hearing as I'm learning more about these sports and enjoy learning about them. Also for us triathletes, where do we get started? Are we putting different tires on our road bikes and checking out some paths? I will say after one less successful attempt that left me falling, I'd love to learn where we can start dabbling without investing in a whole new bike because, we're already in an expensive sport. Would love your feedback. Thanks for all you do and loving the podcast.
All right, Ashley from Ohio. This is actually a good question. The difference between gravel and mountain bike, because I will tell you that in the cycling world, people make a lot of fun of like there's definitely crossover, and there's definitely a lot of mean jokes about like mountain bikes today or gravel bikes today are just mountain bikes from 30 years ago.
Right.
That's
kind of true.
and around here, and so I will say I think the difference, and I've thought about this a lot because of like where we've lived in different places. Gravel riding is heavily like generally less technical. It's dirt roads, it's gravel roads. It's like for a lot of places in the country have more unpaved roads than paved roads, and so that is now what we call like gravel riding, where you're basically riding roads, but they're not paved, and that can be really muddy. It can be gravelly. It can be all kinds of different. Mountain biking tends to be trails. Like you can still be riding fire road sometime, but you're distinctly going on a trail as opposed to just like you might see a car or something, right? Like there are not going to be cars when you're like mountain biking. Now there's a lot of crossover because you might go from like one to the, like might get on a dirt road to get on another trail to like pop on and off. And again, like cyclists, like hardcore cyclist type people will make fun that everyone had to go and invent a new goddamn kind of bike and riding when really like people have been doing what they call it mixed terrain riding, where you do some dirt road and some gravel road and some regular road. And then you jump on and you just sort of mix it all up.
Yeah.
And there are series of those, like there's a very popular series here of that's been around for like 30, 40 years where like there are races, but they call them rides, where they're race rides. Yeah. And I think there's some like in Vermont and there's some in Michigan that like locally are very, very popular. And so forever people just rode their road bikes with like heftier tires. Now they might ride like a gravel bike. So so you could just ride your regular bike on that kind of thing if you wanted. You do not want to ride your regular bike on like mountain bike trails.
No, I mean, even like, so when I would ride a bit of gravel, I had an old cross bike. So I've never really had like a quote unquote gravel bike, but a cross bike, just very similar, which was designed for like cyclocross racing. Right. And what was I saying? Oh yeah. I tried to go on mountain bike trails one time with it and I fell off and cracked my knee. It was very bad. I could not run for a while. And I do not have the skills for that kind of thing. So
I think it's really funny because where I live right here, we don't actually have that many dirt roads. So gravel biking doesn't actually like really make sense here, but we have a ton of mountain bike trails. But because gravel is so hot and trendy and everyone here has too much money, they've all bought gravel bikes. And so you see them out trying to ride their gravel bike on like things you should not ride gravel bike. Like, I mean, there are plenty of fire roads that gravel bikes would be fine on, but then they're also on like these rocky, rutted, trying to like get their. And you're like, just buy a fucking mountain bike. What are you doing? So it's kind of like around here, a gravel bike really doesn't do you a lot of good, but people really they want to make it work. So
like if you want something that goes on all things, a mountain bike would do it. Right.
Well,
but then you're going to be slower on gravel than
a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just buy a gravel bike and then I can ride it on everything. And I have to say, I think that's kind of dumb.
It doesn't work that way.
Doesn't
Yeah,
really
and then
great.
but then I do know some people who, like, if you can only have one bike, if you have
Yes.
a gravel bike, and then
Yes.
you can put road tires on
Right.
it, and the setup and everything is like similar enough that you can probably go to a road group ride or something on a gravel bike with skinnier tires. So you just change the tires in and out.
So to Ashley's question of how you get started, if you really just want to get started, like, and you have a road bike, you can ride road bike on like packed dirt roads. I think that's, if you're like, the next step would be to just, like Sarah's saying, a lot of people will just change to gravel tires or have another set of wheels that are like gravel friendly, which basically just means thicker tires, bigger, so that you can get on a little more dirt, a little more mud. And I would just start by like riding, like I don't know what the roads are by you, but a lot of people have levee trails or flat trails or dirt roads, and that's not super technical, so it's like a good place to start. And then if you really want to get into mountain biking, then it's kind of like, you probably, like, if you actually want to ride over giant like roots and stuff, you do need to kind of,
You need a mountain bike.
you need a mountain bike. When we lived in Colorado, I got this idea that I was going to put gravel tires on my old road bike.
Oh yeah. How did that go?
And if you have a modern road bike, because everyone's gone to thicker and thicker tires, that's fine. If you have an old road bike,
Yeah.
they literally don't have enough space to put.
That's what I was
bigger
thinking
tires
when you
on?
were talking. I'm not so up to date on my bike technology that I can
Yeah.
like really speak to this question, but I'm like, all of my older road bikes, I could, like, even the road bike I still have, I could have never put gravel tires on it. 'cause
So
it
like
wouldn't fit.
modern ones, if you have a bike for the last like 6 or 7 years,
Yeah.
you could fit thicker tires because it's been like the hotter and hotter. trend
And
to go
sometimes the
wider
brakes
and
are they're disc brakes, right?
Yeah, so disc brakes
Which
is what
makes a
really helps
difference.
that. But yeah, so my old bike is not disc brake, and it has it's like a lower clearance because that was what used to be the thing.
Right.
I had to like special order like Pan-Eraser 25s so that they would
Yeah.
like fit on my. And then I like took it
And-
out in Colorado,
Yeah.
and I got myself in some situations that you definitely did not want to have ridden
I
that
see.
bike on. And then I had to like descend down a mountain on a gravel road, and I was like, oh, cool, great.
But you got through it, and you're still here to tell the tale.
Still here. So that is the downside. If you do that, you might end up in a situation that's
I
like,
think-
oh, I don't have enough bike for this situation.
If I was going to get into it now, what I would do is go and look for like a used gravel bike for someone who during COVID decided that they
Sure.
needed all the bikes
Right.
and bought a gravel bike. There's probably a ton
There are a ton.
on like Marketplace and stuff like that. So
That's a good call too.
that's what I would
Yeah.
do.
There's definitely a lot of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you should get started. That is the difference. You go very much more in the weeds. Our cyclist listeners probably have a lot more thoughts about this.
Yeah. But for Ashley from Ohio, thank you for calling in. If anyone else wants to call in, we love our voicemailers. So send
We'll
us a
put
voice.
the details in the show notes. But yeah, just send it to podcast@livefeisty.
.com.
.com. Yeah, well, that's true. All right. That is all the sports for the week. The sports coming up, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Fancy music. Because we are in championship season. It is track and field world championship time.
Okay.
So it starts on Saturday. They are in Tokyo, Japan, which apparently means it starts Friday evening here.
Okay.
We are behind by about 12 hours.
And it starts with the women's marathon. Am I right that like it feels to me like track, world champs, Olympics, etc. always like either starts or ends with a marathon?
Yes.
Is that like a tradition?
I
Remember
think
at the
so.
Olympics, like in Paris last year, we watched the marathon. When it was like the last, one of the last. It was the last of the track events, right? And now they're opening this with the marathon.
I think Paris, they specifically decided to do the women's marathon at the very last event as like a historic tracing the route of like some women's march that like back in the day was part of the revolution. Yeah. There was like a whole thing to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they often will kick off or end. Like in London Olympics, they had the marathon go by Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
I believe it's actually, the marathon's actually in the evening. So it airs Saturday morning here.
Okay.
There's also the whole, like a couple years ago when they had the World Championships in Doha, they did the marathon at like 5 a.m. or 10 p.m. Something like super crazy because
Right.
they were trying to avoid
Was
the
the
heat.
time change? Oh,
Well, the heat.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're doing that this year. But yeah, if you're in the US or Canada, I guess, most of the events are like the finals are in the morning our time, but then they're going to do like replays and sum ups. What's the word? When they just give you the highlights.
Highlights. Some
Sum
sports
ups.
reporter you are.
Whatever.
So here, coming up, the sum ups with Kelly O'Meara. I love it.
I mean, so track and field world championships is an interesting one because on the one hand, it is, you know, after the Olympics, like kind of one of the biggest world championships in terms of, you know, size, crowds, countries, prestige. Somebody was pointing out, though, with the timing this year and it being like a week after UTMB, it's like a sharp contrast because you can see like kind of the crowds of this like one style of running event has like a certain kind of feel to it. And then you have this other style of running event.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have to like look into a crystal ball to say that like the crowds at UTMB will feel bigger and more energetic and it'll be like more trendy of the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every sport probably goes through this thing. Like track and field is a legacy sport, right? So continuing to create vibes and excitement for like a new generation and get it right is really difficult.
It's interesting though because track and field is actually one of like the easiest sports to follow. You know what I mean? Like whenever you actually have a race, a meet where there are like high stakes, you know, Olympic trials, Olympics, national championships, you're like, oh, this is real. It's always really exciting because you don't have to understand all these rules.
It's easier to follow. It's easier to follow in terms of like the media. But what you mean what I initially thought when you said it, which is like it's easy to understand who runs the fastest from A to B, go, right? Or who jumps the highest, or who uses this pole to jump the highest.
Whatever. Yeah.
Jumps over these hurdles and gets to the point B the fastest. It's like easy to who jumps the furthest.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like very easy to get invested then just watching it.
Right.
You're like,
yeah.
I want that person to cross the line first. So
it's like track and field is very pure. Oh, and I forgot all about the field sports. Like who could throw this thing the furthest. There's something very great about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as a triathlete too, like I definitely am attracted to watching track at the Olympics and at the, you know, like, do you remember when I got sick in Paris and I had track tickets that day? That was, I'm still upset about it. I'm still bringing it up months later on the podcast. The devastation of missing track.
Track in Paris, here's for people who missed it, very uncomfortable seats. This was like the overwhelming takeaway was the stadium there. It was very uncomfortable seats. They had no food and they need to like shorten that, run a show. They need to tighten it up. It was like, it just went on for way too long.
I mean, the no food in Paris thing was a ubiquitous experience,
yes.
I think.
So in case you were like worried that you missed something, I feel like Tokyo World Championships are going to be better. I had a bunch of friends go to the last one in Budapest, and they said it was really fun, the last World Championships. But yeah, this whole like making track exciting, making it a spectator sport. A lot of people it comes in waves, right? People are like, because it is so easy to understand and you feel like, oh, this should be more followable. Right. And so there are these waves of people being like, oh, we just have to do X, you know, we're just going to make this exciting. And so the latest has been the whole like Grand Slam track, Michael Johnson's.
Oh, yes.
Right. Going to make it exciting. We're going to like save track and field is what he kept saying. And you're like, oh. And anyway, it didn't work. Or I suppose that's like, I suppose that's a little early to say, but.
Yeah, like it didn't work. They just it wasn't whether it was working or not. It was just they ran out of money, right?
This year was the first year of Grand Slam track. They were going to do 4 meets, and the style that they created it as was these like groups of athletes that were the best. I mean, they did get very big names to their credit, right? They got like world champions and world record holders and medalists, and you were going to have the same group of athletes across like, you know, sets of events like the 100, 200, the 800, 1500, and they were going to compete across all these 4 meets. So you would see them over and over again, and it would create this like high stakes. And if you won you could win your set of events, the 200, 400, the hurdles, And that would be your slam. Like, you could win your slam.
Okay.
And then you would win a lot of money, right? So you were trying to win your little group. And it was like 2 or 3 days. And I'm saying 2 or 3 because the first one was 3 days, and then they decided that was too long. So the second one was 2 days. The third one was 2 days. And then the fourth one never happened in LA. And they said it was like, oh, there was money, like the stadium. It was very unclear. I didn't have it. And then they said, oh, well, we had a sponsor pull out because of tariffs and Trump. And then it turns out that basically when they launched back at the beginning of the year, they only had a term sheet, like a promise. They didn't have an actual contract of money. So you're like, oh. So they actually didn't have the $30 million that they said they had.
Right.
But they didn't tell anyone they didn't have it. So then they kept being like, oh, your check. So then a lot of athletes still haven't been paid now. And they're owed, $200,000, $100,000, $250,000.
I like you sent me that article about it, right? And I really felt it hard. Like, so when because I did fundraising for Feisty last year at a fraction of 30 million, not anywhere near that level. But like, I remember getting like verbal commitments to things, having term sheets, and people being like, aren't you excited? Like, you're almost at your million or whatever, or you're almost at $1 million, you're almost at this. And I'm like, well, I'm not, because like, I'm not excited about anything until there's money in the bank. And then and then I'm not excited about anything until we start to see that we're able to like use that money to make money too, because that's what a business is, right?
Sure.
So it was like layers of things that like, so I can see where I just felt that so hard. Like if you have a term sheet and you don't have, if the money's not in the bank, you don't have the money.
And it's like, that was this big investigation that New York Times, The Athletic did, kind of to find out where, because it's been, as this has kind of collapsed, it's been like, oh, well, this happened. Oh, well, this person pulled out. Oh, well, they changed. And it was not clear until this like investigative reporter that actually they never had the money. That there was a lot of hand waving and.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, a little bit predictable. I thought they would collapse next year. A little bit predictable just because math, man. Like, even if you raise 30 million, you didn't bring in 30 million. So
I think notably though, it's not like not having money that was promised to you and then already promising it out or pre-spending it is not the same as the sport isn't popular.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a relationship there, because if you sold out all these tickets, you got all these TV rights immediately for your, for your your Grand Slam set of 4 events, then like maybe it would have worked. Maybe, like, I don't know.
Well,
I'm not in their planning, so I don't know.
They're claiming that the investor who had like term sheeted promise like 12 million came to the first event, to like still do their like do I want to invest, and then was underwhelmed because attendance was low in Jamaica. Which is, I mean, neither here nor there. Like, on the one hand, like, part of me is like, so if a couple thousand more people came, you would have given them $12 million? Like, that feels so arbitrary, but I don't know. Rich people are arbitrary. But yeah, to your point, I've had a few people say like, oh, well, look, running's booming and Michael Johnson couldn't even make that work. And I'm like, I don't know that those things are like the same thing. Like, they're not. They're not unrelated, but they're not related.
Yeah. 100%.
And then, so the reason I've always been like, oh, it's never going to work is if you are in the triathlon world, Michael Johnson came to the PTO, the Pro Triathlon Organization's events a couple years ago and was like, oh, this model's great. This is amazing. We should replicate this in track. And so what they did very heavily replicates the PTO's T100 circuit in track. The finances of which also do not pencil out if you like back of the napkin it. And so I was always like, guys, like, why are you replicating something that has not made a profit yet and has no plan? Like,
and
why?
Like, and one of the things that like triathlon typically always does when it's not making money is like, if you've planned a pro only circuit and it's not working, then you add an amateur race and people buy people buy entry. They're not buying tickets to watch your thing. They're buying entry to do your thing, right? And like, I don't think track and field has that same option. That, yeah. So like, where the PTO can go, oh, okay, well, amateur athletes can come and race our races, and we'll put it over 4 days or whatever, 3 days. Yeah. That. Oh.
So
that was like the best.
They removed. So the Michael Johnson has done many times commentary for the BBC during World Championships and Olympics and stuff. They removed him from the commentary team for this World Championship, partially because a lot of the athletes are still owed money, so that's like a hot topic. And I was like, oh, poor Michael Johnson. He was just trying to save track and field.
That's what you get for trying to save track and field. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. He was just trying to save track. He had already cut out field events.
Field was apparently unsavable to him.
Yes.
I don't know what it's being saved from or who, where, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for that situation because like reality is too, like when you have investment money, your job is to spend it.
Yes.
And so you can't blame him for actually spending it.
No, you can blame him for spending money you didn't have. Or promising money you didn't have. And I think some of these athletes, it's not like, it's sort of just, that sucks. Some of them, that 100,000 was going to let them finally like quit their job and be a pro runner.
Yeah.
Or they like made like decisions based on that money, and now they're screwed. And obviously they could still get paid. They probably will eventually get some money, but I mean, because also, like, everyone takes a while to pay out. Like, it's not uncommon for things to take a long time to pay out in the sports world.
A friend of mine, someone who I know, won $1 million. And in something, like in a triathlon set series of events, that was set up in a way that the person providing the prize money did not think anyone was ever going to win it. Sure. And then when she did, it took a year, but she did get the money. But it took eventually. A year. Like a year later, it was still that. Like, I don't have the money. So
in
but
the
she did
in the triathlon parallel that Michael Johnson based his thing off,
Yeah.
they just paid their year-end bonuses from last year with the new investment money that they just got. So there you go. See, it all works. Like
it's the same.
It's the same thing.
It's the same, except Michael Johnson doesn't have another investor coming to save him.
I know. I think the real problem for Michael Johnson is that a lot of people cared and a lot of people were paying attention. Obviously, triathlon had the benefit of like no one was paying attention. Besides like, I don't know, 6 of us. So he's now, right? Like he's been the subject of a New York Times investigation and like, it's become a big controversy, and like it was on, NBC TV, and so I think that's just, it's like higher profile. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is what's happening with Grand Slam track. A lot of those athletes, they made decisions throughout the year to do the slams versus the Diamond League, and some of them are like Gabby Thomas was a big opponent of the slams.
Yeah. And
now she's injured and she's not doing the World Championships. So there's definitely like, there's some costs.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yep. All right, but the athletes who are doing the World Championships. Should we do a mini preview? Do you like? It is like a pretty good rundown because I will say so. Gabby Thomas is out.
Do a preview for me because I don't know them. So go ahead.
So Gabby Thomas is out, who's like defending Olympic champ in the 200, and I mean a lot of people love Gabby. But Julian Alfred, who is the defending champ in the 100, Olympic champ in the 100, and then Melissa Jefferson Wooden, who's like the current fastest right now in the world in the 100 and 200. They'll both be in. So it'll be like a kind of head-to-head, matchup type thing.
Yeah.
My not my favorite, but my big like Sydney McLaughlin is running the 400 flat, not the hurdles.
Oh,
I know.
Interesting.
I know.
Couldn't she do both?
She has decided. Well, she didn't run the hurdles at.
I guess they like strategically choose certain things.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, so she doesn't have a bye because she isn't defending champion because whatever. But I think they would have given her a wild card for hurdles. However, she has decided to do just the 400, the flat 400. So that's exciting. That's interesting. Faith Kipyegon, who everyone will remember from the sub 4 attempt, is doing the 1,500 and the 5,000.
Okay.
And then Beatrice Chabet is doing the 10,000 and the 5,000.
Okay.
So you're having a lot of crossover in the 5,000. There's somebody else in the 5,000 too. Like, I mean, obviously there's lots of people, but basically, so you're gonna have this like crossover in the 5,000, which will be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you said the marathon. The marathon is obviously the first event, and Tigist Asifa is probably the favorite. She is the fastest person in the world who is not serving a doping ban currently. So,
Jeez.
Yeah.
So wait, how many people are serving doping bans?
No, I only one, maybe two.
She won in Paris. Is that right?
No, Safana San won in Paris.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, but she had the world record before the most recent world record. So that'll be exciting. And then I know like there are some very good 800 runners who we haven't seen a lot in the last year. So that one's kind of like a big question mark. And there are a lot of like American favorites that people love, like Nikki Hiltz will be the 1,500. Nikki posted, and I'm there with them. Nikki posted about like representing the U.S. right now, and like how do you grapple with that?
Interesting. What did they have to say about it?
I mean, they just kind of posted like how do you grapple with like the U.S. is a really fucked up place right now, and like we've talked about like definitionally slipping into authoritarian fascism, and doing some really fucked up things. So, but you were representing it, and I've actually never had a deep problem with like, because in my head I've always been like, well, you're like the country is not always what they're doing right now. Like a lot of countries do terrible things. Yeah. But it is acutely, I get where she's coming from. So
yeah.
So you're like, I mean, a lot of people responded saying, you have to like represent the good parts of, right? You have to show like other trans kids that you're out there, speak out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And like what the regime
it's a fucking regime, man. It is.
What the regime is doing is not the whole of the country, or what your government is doing does not represent everyone in the country.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Nikki's also obviously talked some about the sex testing, which we've talked about on a couple episodes now. Our most popular episode to date was our episode about why they are bringing back sex testing. About the
sex testing, yeah.
So if you haven't listened to that, go back from like a month ago. An update, because the whole thing was that if you wanted to compete in the female category, you had to have this SRY gene test done by September 1st.
Yes.
I think people wildly missed that deadline because look, I know like we had a voicemail from a listener who was a former pro runner who was like, well, this was coming for a long time.
Who is also a scientist.
He's also a doctor. Who said like, they said that this was coming back in the spring. Totally fair. But they didn't actually like announce the
no one's
protocols.
going out and no one is going out and arbitrarily getting sex tests done just in case it like it's not until you know what the protocols are, what's expected of you, and when your deadline is that you start.
So that wasn't announced till very beginning of end of July. And then it turns out that, there are some countries where this testing is banned because of like privacy concerns. There's some countries where you just like, they don't have the labs. They couldn't get it. So you had to like go somewhere else. World Athletics is putting $100, like we said, to each test, but the tests are generally like $300, $400. So, and then in Canada, so there was this, because the CBC checked in with like Canadian athletes, and they gave saliva samples when they needed to give blood samples. Some of them were training somewhere where like, they couldn't access a test. They had to like, drive to go get a test from a different lab. It's just been,
it just feels like another tax on female athletes, right? Like both in the financial side on like that. Imagine you're preparing for your world championship and then you're like, oh, I have to drive 4 hours to get some sex tests like that my male counterpart does not have to do. Like it doesn't sound like a big deal, but actually like you and I know as folks who have like prepared for world championships at an elite level that like that is a freaking big deal.
It's just like another headache too. It's like,
like it's just and like the men don't have to do it and they don't have to go under the stress. And then you have, of course, the stress of like, do I have something that's going to show up on my chromosome that I didn't know and I've been a woman my whole life too, right?
Well,
like I'm sure there are a few athletes at least who are like a little concerned about that too, because you can have situations where there's like no advantage and no presentation of of having a Y chromosome,
which we've talked about. And like Sasha, who said in the voicemail, said this is the way they are operating it, is that this test is more of a sex selection, I think is the word she said. Sex, like if you pop a positive, you then just go into additional testing, and and you could be cleared if you have one of these conditions.
Sure, but then
but it's still like a whole other process.
Yeah, then you have the next, and who's paying for that?
Oh my! Nobody knows. Nobody
knows. What I mean? Like,
it's very annoying.
It's so bad.
And
this is my educated opinion about it.
It's really bad, and I think one of the things that's really frustrating if you're like Nikki and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Is that the cultural conversation has swung so quickly and so heavily in like 180 degrees that instead of being able to have like kind of nuanced, like rational conversations about, is this necessary? People are just hard on the other side. Like people, like they just swung completely the other way. And there's like, they're yelling slogans about like protecting women's sports. And you're like, that's like one of the Canadian runners said on the CBC, I've lost both to intersex athletes and dopers, and I would really rather we were putting this time into the dopers.
Right. Like, and the money, like, so that, they had also done some kind of calculation of how many hundreds of thousands of dollars this is going to cost even World Athletics, who agreed to put $100 into each test. And if you add up those $100 and the amount of, like, you could put all of those, I forget, it was something like $300,000-$400,000 into anti-doping, into increased anti-doping, whatever, testing, whatever else needs to be bolstered in terms of anti-doping. Like, you would catch way more cheaters, and it would be, women's sports would be
more. I don't know. Yeah.
Women's sports would be more fair. Like, if your goal is to make women's sports more fair, and then you go, oh, where should we spend this money? Right? And like, sex testing is not it.
And I think, and this is going deep into this conversation, but some of the people who are hard right advocates, they've said the quiet part out loud, they have literally said on the record now, like, it was never about sports. Sports was just the avenue to get like middle of the road, rational, like regular people to then be anti-trans. Because once you stop stopping people from participating in one segment of life, once you say like, oh, well, by this definition, you can't, then you can block them from other things. And so they've literally like, and like, this may sound conspiracy, but literally people who are like, founding the Freedom for Women, whatever coalition have said in interviews, it was never about sports. They don't care about women's sports. It was never like, this was always just a path to discrimination and what's the word I'm looking for, like, for pushing someone out of society. There's a word for it. Anyway, scapegoating. Yeah.
Right. And like the other thing that drives me insane with this whole conversation, I'm sure I've said this on a previous episode, is like the depth of the misogyny that's involved in this entire conversation, where you're like, you have this, oh, well, yeah, we can't have quote unquote men in women's sports, right? Like this core assumption that like all of the women, that any man at any point, or anyone who has any kind of like male biological marking of any kind coming in is going to beat women at sports. It's like, that's just not how the world works. It's just like not how it is. And so like that kind of core assumption too just drives me bananas.
I'm so past that, Sarah. I'm so like, the people using this as their crutch. It's the like, they don't even actually care. Like, it's not really, again, it's like not really about sports. It's the like war on Christmas of the modern times. They're using like sports to get at trans people because that was a scapegoat for political agenda. Because then once you get that, you can get the next step and the next step, and you can be like, oh, see, like women need to be women again. Wokeness has gone too far. Like, this is you shouldn't vote for that person. They want men in women's sports. Like, and it was never. They don't even like. It was never about whether or not men are better or good. It was never. It didn't. It was just a easy, simple message to say them versus us.
100%. And I think for folks, for anyone who's listening who thinks that it's about just going after trans folks and eliminating them from public areas of life. It's not. It's also about women. And like I think that's why I want to bring up the like misogyny piece too, because it's like the crack in the door that opens is about all folks identifying as women, not just trans women. So
this is why I know you and I have this whole thing going on all the time lately, and you're like, oh, but it could turn around, stay optimistic. And I'm like, no, fuck you. Because optimism without information is very easy. If you have information, it's very hard to be like, oh, this is bad. Or not to be like, oh, this is bad. Like, it's bad. It's very bad. It's going to be bad. Sorry, Nikki Hiltz. I appreciate, like, I understand where you're coming from and why it is rough as fuck right now. That is what I'm saying.
No, the thing is that like if you look historically, like movements, even at like the feminist movement, that like there's always pushback and it comes back stronger. So like we're just, and you just don't know how far back it goes before we come back stronger. That's the problem.
This is like, yes, it is very easy to write the textbook of like this from a historical, like looking down perspective of like what's happening, particularly in America, but globally.
Yeah.
But if you're going like, oh, there are shifts, like this was the shift. It's not gonna swing back the other way too quickly because this was the swing. You see what I mean? Like
it just yes, yeah.
It
depends what happens next. Like because if you look, I don't know, like if you look at, for example, like the pushback of like the fundamentalist right Christian movement in like the early, like literally 100 years ago, right? Like there was this massive pushback on science and enlightenment and you know that had been going on, like that just kind of like came back around in the early 20th century, and then it ended up with this strong but still pretty underground movement where like mainstream still in the end came through to like science based like, do you know what I'm saying? Enlightenment, positive.
That's not who's running the government. Like, that's just like, it's like, I mean, Sarah and I have this argument all the time, and I did not mean for the podcast to go off in this direction.
And like, I don't come into it fully armed. Maybe I should come next week.
That's what I mean. Like, optimism without information is easy.
I'm just pulling stuff out of my brain.
Right. The actual reality, if you're like here and involved in things, is you're like, nope, it's going to be bad for a while. So it's very disheartening on this whole like call, and it's very disheartening that trans women in sports was kind of the canary in the coal mine, linchpin to turn a lot of things. So so track and field is starting this weekend.
Watch track and field. Okay, let's do our picks of the week, Kelly.
So we're gonna wrap up with our feisty picks of the week. And who was your pick?
I'm picking Amanda Anisimova.
Okay.
Just because I just think she's poised, like she's going to win a Grand Slam, right?
Yes.
And when she does, the amount of support that she's getting for like being in these finals, from like how it went at Wimbledon to and now this, like I just feel like the momentum is growing. I just can't wait for her to win.
Okay. So that's your pick?
That's my pick, yeah.
I'm going with Valentina Hull. We talked about the Mountain Bike World Championships. She won the downhill, which is what it sounds like. You just go downhill on a course very fast. And this is her 4th world title, and she's only 23, so she actually won 2 as a junior and then has won 4 as an elite senior, which is a lot. And you can watch, maybe I'll put it in the show notes, the point of view on her helmet as she goes down her like gold medal winning run.
Oh, that must be terrifying.
Yeah. So when we were talking earlier about getting started mountain biking or gravel riding, this is like the opposite.
Don't watch that first. Don't watch it first.
Started.
Yeah.
So that is my pick, Valentina Hull for the week.
Great.
All right. We will include all these all these different links in the show notes. Send us a voicemail at podcast@livefeisty.com. If you have any thoughts, and rate us, subscribe, follow, share with your friends.
Yes. All of the things.